Dennis Allen, ex-Saints head coach, gets fired. You bring a quarterback like Derek Carr in to New Orleans, who you drafted when Dennis Allen was the head coach in Las Vegas. Now, Dennis Allen had an 8-28 record. An 8-28 record.
Yeah, prior to being hired. Yeah,
before he got to New Orleans. And New Orleans still decided to hire him. They said, okay, well, he's next in line after Sean Payton. Now you have the only head coach in NFL history to be fired with the same starting quarterback driving the helm. Derek Carr got him fired twice. And I don't like the narrative that people say Derek Carr got him fired. Dennis Allen is the reason Dennis Allen got him fired. Dennis Allen got himself fired. You look at Darren Rizzi, who's now the interim head coach. Dude's first press conference got me more fired up and more motivated than Dennis Allen's Kendrick Lamar quote.
Yeah. Did you see the stat about? I think he's lost to. This is talking just about Derek Carr. He is I think is the first quarterback to lose to every single NFL team. That's quite the stat. I won't focus too much in on Carr. I just know Carr is not the answer. We did what we had to do. I'm glad that Gale finally stepped up to the big leagues and made a decision to fire Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is not head coach material. What you just said with Darren Rizzi about him firing you up with that first press conference that he had. Yes, he fired me up too. Did Dennis Allen ever fire you up? I can answer it for you. No, he didn't. Not even when he pulled the Kendrick Lamar quote. Because you know where the Kendrick Lamar quote got him? It got him 7 straight losses. Okay. He tried to have a little bit of swag, but everybody figured us out. And he had no answers. No answers at all. So I won't harp too much on Dennis Allen. He's already dealing with the whole situation himself. So point is, we did what we had to do. We had to fire Dennis Allen. We got to find somebody else because this just wasn't working. I think you start thinking about next steps. Obviously, you think about head coach. Me and you both have a couple of different options that we kind of have been thinking about.
Don't spoil it.
I will not.
We're about to go into that.
But we have, I think, and I won't get too much into this though, but I mean, I think the next thing you think about, honestly, and I don't know if Gail Benson will do it, but Mickey Loomis is kind of is also part of the blame for this. He's putting us so deep in the cap every year because we just continue to backload contracts and we just continue to think that, hey, we're going to contend. But you know what, Connor? It just results in, now we'll be worse this year, but it just results in what we had last year. We went 9-8 last year, and we were waiting for people to lose so that we could go to the playoffs.
9-8. I thought we went 7-10 last year.
No,
I think you're being too generous.
I think we went 9-8 last year. I think we went 9-8 because we were at a point where we were waiting, because we could have won the division last year if the Panthers, remember? Because if the Panthers would have beat the Bucs, we could have won the division. I promise you, we were 9-8 last year. But that's what I'm trying to say is that's the most you're going to get. If you continue to do this, you don't have the money. Yeah, you don't have the money to spend for big. You may make a couple of free agent hires or free agent hires, free agent acquisitions like Willie Gay and like Chase Young. But that's it. That's not going to be an X factor type thing. Those are good signs, I feel like. Now, I think Chase Young is underperformed a little bit. Willie Gay has been okay. That's for another topic, though. But you're not going to have enough to build a Super Bowl contending team. And I think that's something that Mickey Loomis just quite honestly doesn't understand. I know he's been around the game a lot. He's been with the Saints since, I believe, 2002. He helped us build that Super Bowl team and Super Bowl 44.
One executive of the year for it.
Yeah. So,
we were actually in diapers when that happened.
Yeah. So I had to go to bed at halftime when the Super Bowl happened. So, but no, the thing is
had bedtime.
He's he's done some good things, but I just don't know. I just don't know anymore. I just don't know that he's the answer. He continues to do crazy, outlandish things with the cap, and and the whole thing with him trying to prove Dennis Allen was going to be okay just is complete crap to Saints fans. Not me and you, but Saints fans all over everywhere.
Well, I got a guy in the background that has a couple answers, and we're unlocking them right now. And I think he might want to jump on and tell us a little bit about what he thinks coming from an NFL background.
What's
Nate
going on,
Nessie.
everybody? What's going on,
What's
y'all?
up, Nate?
Hey, man, nothing much, man. Listen, first and foremost, I want to tell you guys are doing a tremendous job. Just sitting in the background and listening to you guys speak and just talk about the game and just talk about, the nuances and the challenges of the game. It had my ears just perked up because it's just so exciting as a fan. And I want to throw a couple of tidbits out there. Number one, you guys made me feel really old. Really, really old. Two, that New Orleans Saints team, I want to throw two coaches that I think could possibly get some recognition, and one of them being Kingsbury over there and with the Commanders, because the job he's doing right now with Jaden Daniels is not going unnoticed. I feel that the way that the Commander season going, if they make it to the playoffs in that NFC East division, I think Kingsbury deserves a chance to be a coach again. And I tell you this, for the Saints team to be where they're at now, it's too much talent on their roster. But the first things first, you got to get a head coach and you got to get your franchise quarterback. New Orleans hasn't found a franchise quarterback since Drew left. And I think one of the things that should have been done in foreseeing things as Drew is getting in age and getting ready to retire, you should have had somebody in him to learn from behind him. And I think that's where they did a disservice, to the franchise. You lost Sean Payton, yes, and Drew retired and whatnot. They moved on to different aspects of their lives and whatnot. I think you still should have had a quarterback on the roster that got that. I mean, part and getting fired. Dennis Allen got himself fired. And Mickey Loomis plays a big role. Ty, when I heard you say it again, if in my opinion, Loomis should have been gone a couple of years ago.
I'm so
Because
glad you said that. Yep.
You need a fresh face and new blood and new regime. But New Orleans is a team in that NFC South. They could have went to the playoffs last year. They could have went to the playoffs.
You should have. When you spend that much money, you should go to the playoffs. When you spend that much money, you should go to the playoffs.
They open that checkbook. They open that checkbook, and there should have been some results behind that. And again, I know you guys are big time Saints fans and whatnot, but this really is a rebuild, and you need to acquire as much draft capital as you can to really get the foundation of this team to being back to where they competed. I mean, last time I checked, the Saints were always a team that competed and made it to the playoffs under the leadership of Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And as Saints fans, I know you guys are not used to seeing such mediocrity. And
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is and you mentioned too, there's a lot of talent on this roster, and I agree with you. But the reason we're not as good is because it's Mickey Loomis and it's that front office.
You also have no depth.
We don't draft well. We don't draft well.
You have no depth.
We haven't drafted well for a very long time, and that's why I know that our injury situations this year are unprecedented.
Yes.
It's been bad. But if you want to be a championship organization, you have got to draft well, and that's something that's shown up is that when we've gotten past the ones and the twos and we've gotten deeper into that roster, it's guys that just I don't think are cut out for it. And I just don't think we've drafted well. And I think that's a big reason I mean, we signed guys like Willie Gay and we signed guys like Chase Young, and I honestly have thought about it, and I feel like it's to cover up. They try and do that just to cover up what is really
Yes,
underneath the
hands
ones and
down,
the twos.
hands down.
It's not good. It's not good. You saw Willie Gay got hurt week 1 or week 3 or week 2, I believe.
I think it
And
was
then
week two.
Pete Werner was already hurt as well. And then so you have to get to back up, and you ask too much of Demario Davis already for how old he is. And so, no, nothing against him because he just plays well anytime, anywhere. But the thing is about the Saints is they don't draft good enough to be a championship organization, and they are so stupid with how they spend their money. It is insane to me. You said that about Mickey Loomis when you started talking, Nate. He should have been gone in the first place, and I agree. We need new blood, and I hope that we do that because it's Dennis Allen is just wasn't a great head coach, but Mickey Loomis is setting the Saints up for something that is we as Saints fans and New Orleanians and people on the Gulf Coast and all that. We don't deserve a team that is this bad and manages things this bad.
Now, Nate, we kind of have a checklist of what needs to happen for a Saints rebuild, and I kind of want to pick at your brain because you've probably been a part of or seen certain rebuilds. I mean, I know you played for the Lions. They've had a couple of them themselves. You played for the Rams. The Rams have had a couple. And
Yes.
there's certain things that need to happen. Number one, we talked about Cliff Kingsbury. We talked about Jaden Daniels. You sell Dan Snyder, who was the previous owner of Washington, sells to Josh Harris and company, and they have a new regime. Right then and there, they have a new regime. What does Josh Harris do in year one? He signs an entire new roster. They pull out the checkbook for free agency, and they add depth to their roster. They add everything they need that they thought that they didn't have the year prior, and they added it this year. And look what happened. A 7-2 start. You draft the quarterback for the future in Jaden Daniels. You signed Cliff Kingsbury, someone to perfectly couple a perfect marriage in Washington. And now you have something where you're saying, okay, if Dan Snyder can sell the Commanders, why can't Gail Benson, the owner for the Saints, why can't Gail Benson sell the New Orleans Saints? And I think it boils down to not winning, not losing, but to money. But you cannot. She won't fire Mickey Loomis. There's no doubt in my mind she will fire Mickey Loomis. There's no way.
It's too much of the relationship that they have is too. The word I want, I don't know the word I want to use right now.
It's too much of a personal aspect and not enough of a business aspect. Mm-hmm. It's too personal. Mm-hmm. When you have someone there that long, it's almost like they're probably brother and sister or they're relatives. They almost probably view each other like that. And that cannot happen in business because you never want that in a business setting because you can never do what's right for your team. And we're seeing it come to fruition. This is why business owners with clients, if they have a personal relationship with them, they automatically void out their professional relationship right then and there because they know it's best for business, but that's something Gail Benson cannot do. She cannot fire Mickey Loomis. So as soon as she sells the Saints and Mickey Loomis is out, we have to find a head coach, and we kind of have two options for that. You get a defensive-minded guy or you get an offensive-minded guy. And I know you said you bring Cliff Kingsbury in, but if you bring Cliff Kingsbury in and another offensive guy like Ben Johnson for the Detroit Lions, you can't keep Kubiak. That's an issue. You cannot keep Clint Kubiak in New Orleans because Clint Kubiak will not be able to call offense. So in my mind, the best case scenario, you have to sign a defensive guy. Ty and I were talking about it, Nate. You keep Kubiak, you keep Darren Rizzi in this scenario. How does Mike Vrabel to New Orleans sound, Nate?
You know what? Damn, that was a good dad. Damn. Forgot about Vrabes. You bring Vrabes there and keep Kubiak. But you're still gonna have to draft you need a franchise. You need a franchise quarterback. I'm sorry, but in order for you to have any type of success or any amount or any opportunity, to smell success, you need your franchise quarterback. You need the face of your organization. You need somebody that's going to, again, be able to lead the offense. That's going to be able to just again grow. And you need a coach. And I think Kubiak is the perfect asset to have for a young quarterback. And
He's young
you get
himself.
exactly, you get the pieces around him. There's so much talent on that team, young talent, and it's wasting away. It's wasting away. And Travis to this organization, because again, if I recall back to when I was playing, how many years can you look during the Drew Brees era? How many double-digit win seasons you guys had?
Oh, a good bit. It's a good bit.
The lowest Drew Brees ever went, him and Sean Payton, was 7 wins.
Yeah, so yeah.
That's the lowest they've ever been.
And that's when we had terrible defenses.
That was with bad defenses.
But the Saints have always won minimum 11, 12 games.
Yeah. Oh, so 7 double-digit years with Drew Brees starting that quarterback. Well, maybe 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, just 7.
7. How many NFL divisions? How many division championships?
Well, we won 3 straight up until he retired.
That's a good question.
Was it 3 straight or 4 straight, Connor? We won it in 17. We won 4 straight.
It went 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, and then you also had plenty more in between that. I mean, you won it in 06 for sure. You won it in
6, 9, 10, year. 11, and 13.
So
yeah, and then you won it 17, 18, 19,
all
20.
All those years.
Look at now.
That's 9 times, Nate.
Now this is now you mean to tell me winning the division and having double-digit wins, like, again, this team was known for competing in a postseason, and it's not going to be taken well. Especially, you may not like this, but when Sean Payton left, you basically had the same team with the exception of having Drew Brees and a head coach.
That's exactly right.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Ty, tell me I'm wrong. Just tell me I'm wrong.
You're not. It was the same team.
It was the same team.
And you lose, and I get you lose Drew Brees too. I get it's Drew Brees and I get it's Sean, and they both meant so much to New Orleans. But dadgummit, it was the same team.
I mean, you're not
part
wrong.
of it's Mickey's. Honestly, it's a lot of Lewis's fault because, and it's a little bit of Sean's too, is because we never could find the aggressiveness to pull the trigger on a quarterback to try and sit under Drew Brees. Green Bay did it a while back with Aaron to sit under Brett.
Man,
so why couldn't we ever pull the trigger? But and you're right. I mean, it was the same exact roster.
Because we never knew when Drew's last years were, and I think that's the problem. Mickey could never examine Drew Brees' career and say, okay, this is the last years he's been in New Orleans, because even whenever it was his last years, we signed him to 2 more years? He still had 2 years left in New Orleans even when he retired. So,
but Connor, Ty said this, and you guys both just said it. Y'all hit the nail square on. Drafting. Mickey Loomis, I know how to draft. You had, again, he wasn't drafting for the future. He wasn't. I'm sorry, he was not drafting for the future, because if you're drafting for the future, I think in 17, no. Was that 20, 18 or 20, I would have drafted a quarterback.
Yeah.
I would have drafted a quarterback in 18.
I think Joe Burrow draft, I think that's when you pull the trigger, because there were so many guys there.
It was about 6 or 7 guys that came out that draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right around that. I mean, Drew said it himself. I mean, he couldn't. I don't know how he did it, but I mean, he was in bad shape in 17 and 18. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, what you said too with drafting for the with not drafting for the future and drafting for the current. I think that's the mindset they've had, is they think they can win anytime, and I don't know that they've thought about the future as much. And I just think they draft flash in the first rounds, and then when you get in the back and you get in the deep rounds and you get in stuff that matters, I just think we're just winging it. Honestly, I really don't know how you can.
But even when you draft for the future, and we've seen that 2017 draft, the amount of studs New Orleans had that year, you can't pay the people to keep them. You don't have the money to keep the people, the studs you draft in late rounds. I mean, who was it? Alex Anzalone, Trey Hendrickson. You had all those
Marshawn
defensive
Lattimore.
studs. Marshawn Lattimore, which you still kept for a minute. You had a bunch of defensive studs that draft you just couldn't keep. Because you kept backloading contracts. You were always in the negatives with cap space. You could never give somebody a contract after their rookie deal was up because you didn't have the money. So you were never drafting for the future. You were drafting for the 4 years you had that player, and then poof, they're gone.
But you want to know something, Connor? And what you just said, you drafted for the 4 years that you'll have that player. But why wouldn't you trade him and get some draft asset, draft capital? In the peak. Alex Anthony, you put at least a third round draft for because the way he's producing now. And you're not like, again, it's so many guys that they've had that, again, have balled out and started to hit their peak. And they let them go for nothing. When you could have actually got draft capital for these guys. You could have tendered these guys to where teams would have given up maybe a second or a third round draft pick for you to have to play around with. But you didn't do it.
That's a Loomis mindset.
It's bad how bad we've just mismanaged things. We've just missed. It's just I can't even put it into words. It is so. And Saints fans have seen it coming ever since Drew retired. The Saints fans have seen it coming. We know how, not like I said earlier, non-aggressive we've been in the pursuit of trying to find a quarterback to replace Drew Brees. I know that's tough, but you regardless, you have to have a franchise quarterback, like you said, Nate. Saints fans have seen it coming. We know what Mickey keeps trying to do every year. It's not going to work. I've always said we gotta just suck it up and commit to the rebuild at some point, and we have just yet to do that. We keep getting stubborn and thinking that we can compete. We can. We've done well, but it's just not at a championship level. You can say, okay, if we would have made the playoffs last year, you could say 9. We probably only would have won a game. Okay, I know that's. I know that we seriously we probably would have only won a game. That wasn't as good of a team last year, and they didn't have the stuff to make it to the NFC title or the Super Bowl. We've had the talent, like Nate said earlier. It's just that when things get tough, we have to rely on backups. We know that we're never going to produce because we don't draft well, and we keep trying to backload contracts, and we keep trying to say, oh, there is money, and every year Mickey always finds a way to get under the cap and make like 1 or 2 signings, and that's it. That's not going to, and then we just draft terrible. That's not going to win you championships in the National Football League.
Now, I pulled a list of players the Saints have let go who are starters on other teams. Do you want me to tell you these players' names and see
You
if
about to get mad.
You ready?
So most of the 17 draft is on there too, by the way.
Zach Bond, who's currently on the Eagles. He's probably been the Eagles' best linebacker, maybe best defensive player this year. Adam Troutman, who's now kind of Sean Payton takes scraps at Denver. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Caden Ellis, who's now with the Falcons. You got you don't keep Marcus Davenport. I don't think that was an okay thing. Marshawn's gone now. Marcus Williams is gone now. Alex Anzalone is gone now. Trey Hendrickson. Alex Anzalone, starter for the Lions, linebacker. Trey Hendrickson leading the NFL in sacks right now with 11.5. And you're not going to tell me you didn't want to keep him in New Orleans. You wanted to keep him, Mickey. You wanted to keep him, but you couldn't because you couldn't pay the dang guy. You can't give people pennies and expect dollar bills on the field. That's not how it works. You got to pay them what they're worth. And when you're trying to pay people pennies, you're going to get a penny product on the field. You're trying to pay people with what they're not worth, and now you're seeing people go ball out on other teams. Sheldon Rankins, he's on the Texans or Jets, one of the two. He's on either one. Von Bell, dude's been a stud on the Panthers and Bengals, and we couldn't keep him because That's another guy you just don't keep because you can't sign. I mean, even Brandon Cooks. Don't even get me started on Brandon Cooks. I wish we could have kept him, but he was a stud on other teams. And you get these guys that you've drafted in the past 10 years, the ones I just named, what I named, 10, 11, 12 guys, and you can't keep them because you can't pay them. And now you're getting penny product on the field when you're expecting dollar bill. I don't know what to tell you.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. The Trey Hendrickson thing just makes me so sad. Seriously, because he was a baller when he was a Saint.
No, yeah, he had 13.
And now he's just
great. He was a killer. That was, I think that was probably, that's either top 3, one of his biggest, that got to be a biggest regret. Because Trey Hendrickson, him and Cam Jordan, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we
nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, when we had to do that too, I mean, I knew it. I mean, that's a good football player. Seriously, he does things the right way. That's a good football player. His rookie season with New Orleans, insane. And and there's obviously more guys, but I know it hurts you too, Connor. Hendrickson being with Cincinnati now and not being a Saint hurts so bad. And a lot of the other guys that are gone hurts so bad. But it is what it is when you manage a team so poorly.
I mean, you say Demario Davis is so old, you're expecting a lot from him. I named 3 linebackers that are starting for other teams, Ty. 3 of them. That's 3 people you got behind Demario that you couldn't keep. You could have said, bye, Demario, go enjoy retirement. But now you're still sucking every little last bit of football you can out the guy because you don't have anybody behind him to play. And I named 3 guys that are starting. These guys aren't 2 or 3 in the depth chart. They're number 1.
They're 1.
They're number 1.
Exactly.
And Zach Bond might be the best defensive player on the Eagles right now. And I'm not joking on that. And he was he was serviceable on the Saints, but he couldn't never shine because we never wanted to give him the reins. It was always DeMario or Pete Warner over him. You never let him have the reins. Now that he has it, guess what he's doing? Leads the league in tackles.
He was more
what's going on,
bro. He was more than serviceable.
You just couldn't never let him shine.
Like, this guy, a sideline, yeah, special.
Yeah,
special.
Yeah, I mean, Bond, Anzalone, and Ellis are now all on opposite teams. Hurts even more that Ellis is with the Falcons. Those 3 guys are just really, really good football players. And like I said, it is what it is. You reap what you sow. And the thing is we've set ourselves up for this as a franchise, and it's all kind of hit the breaking point right now.
That's why it's time to get new. It's time to get new management, and it's time to get new blood in a new direction. You got to get with the times, and the times right now, you know what? You have to change the dynamic. The game is changing. The players are changing. The breed of athletes are changing and whatnot. And you have to, again, you gotta stay with the motion, because you're gonna be in last place. And it's like right now they're not staying with the motion whatsoever. I mean, this team has too much talent to have the record that they have.
Yep, and just to kind of finish with that, I mean, you're right. It's got a lot of talent. It doesn't have talent behind it. That's the reason we're not as good. That ties to Mickey Loomis. I'm glad to see that we were aggressive in the fact that we let go of DA. I hope that we continue that aggressiveness and try and find new blood in the ownership position.
And that's the only thing that's going to happen. Nate, do you know how much money the bank's going to allow us to pull out a loan so we can buy the New Orleans Saints?
I don't know. But
do you know how much money they'll allow us to do? Because I kind of want to buy the New Orleans Saints. We might get a return over the several years we've turned that franchise around. Maybe if we can get season tickets up at an all-time high, we can get a return.
But you know what? The thing that's going to do that is you need a solid head coach. And you're going to have to draft. Like right now, if the draft was to start today, they would get a top 5 draft pick, right?
I think number 3.
We actually have the number 2. I think it was a number 2.
Right now,
I think it was 2.
Yeah. Is there quality? There's a couple of decent quarterbacks coming out. Decent. I didn't say quality. I said decent. but that's another thing. You want a quarterback. I'm not going to necessarily say you want him. You need them to be pro ready and to play now, because I feel that if you're going to draft a quarterback, you need to let them sit for a little bit.
I mean,
but who they gonna sit
I
behind?
don't know. I don't
Who they
know
gonna
if
sit
we're in
behind?
that situation. I mean, you might do it with Derek. I mean, Derek still just let Derek's contract ride out. But I mean, I don't know if that's what the fan base wants. I
I
mean,
was just about to say, I don't think the fan base want that.
yeah. I mean, certainly, I don't really want to see Derek Carr play a lot more for the black and gold. I understand. And I understand what you're saying, Nate, and I agree with you. I think it's best for some guys and a lot of guys to sit behind guys that are established in the league at the quarterback position. There's a couple guys you could look at, and you say they're decent, and I'm sort of with you because I'm a little skeptical on some of them. I think Dylan Gabriel is a good quarterback. I really do. His numbers prove it. He's in a good system at Oregon, and I think he's taken good advantage of it. Shedeur Sanders also is a guy that definitely would be under consideration. The thing you worry about with him is obviously he's got the talent, but the thing you worry about with him, maybe if there's a little bit of immaturity out of him, just because sometimes it feels like he acts like he is Colorado, and sometimes I just don't agree with it with the things that he does as much. But you can't deny the talent that he has. There's a couple of options, and I agree with you. It's kind of, when you look at it, it's a little decent. We'll have to see how these guys progress and how they progress through the combine and all that. But there are definitely some opportunities for the Saints this year, especially if we finish how we're looking like, to make a move at the quarterback position.
I like Cam Ward too.
Yeah, didn't mention him.
I like Cam Ward, but I feel like when he gets into like competition, he gets a little scared, just a little bit. That's my only opinion on him. But
he can
play from behind.
But the thing,
like,
and they find a way to win there too.
He can play from behind, no matter how bad the defense. And that's a guy you need in New Orleans, a guy that can play from behind, no matter how bad the other side of the ball is playing. I don't know how to feel about Dylan Gabriel yet. I don't think I really like Shedeur that much. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think he's the guy. But Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward,
I said, the talent's there with him.
Yeah, and you got somebody like he's a second generation type of guy. You got somebody like Coach Prime, who's been kind of grooming him his entire upbringing to be this star quarterback. But you got to be a certain specimen to play quarterback in the NFL, and I don't know if Shedeur's that specimen.
You're right on that, and I think the main thing with that too is I talked about how he acts and the things he says. I think as a leader, you want to have good character and you want to mesh with the guys in the locker room. I don't know that he is right now in that spot. I think that's something obviously you want to look for if you're the Saints, is you want to look for a guy that can come in and be there and mesh with the guys in the locker room. And some of the things Shedeur has maybe said and done, don't know if he's that kind of guy yet. So, you kind of just look for some maturity out of him.
Or maybe you don't get a quarterback. Maybe you get somebody who's a game changer like Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty. Maybe you get one of them guys. I mean, Alvin Kamara's – I know you need a quarterback, but this is the thing. You got a quarterback on a rookie deal. You got a quarterback on a deal right now. Okay, you got 2 years left to Derek Carr. You got 3 years left to Spencer Rattler after the season's said and done. What about you got Chris Olave getting concussions one after the other? He might be gone. You don't know what's in store for him the next couple of years. Hate to say it, but it might be a Ryan Ramczyk situation where you just lose one of the best offensive players you got. Why not get a game changer like Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty, and you just kind of push back the quarterback? You're in rebuild mode. Rebuild mode doesn't say you got to get it done in 1 year. And you wait another year because maybe what looks like an Arch Manning type of player to come up in the next draft.
Yeah, that would be.
What about waiting for someone like him?
I know we mentioned that. Yeah.
You got to think ahead. You're playing for the future.
I just don't know.
You're not playing for 1 year. You're playing for the future. And if you're gonna get a game changer guy year one, go get your quarterback year two. Go get Arch Manning. Go get a guy like him.
I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but the way y'all talking, I think y'all need to go ahead and be somebody's GM. I'm just saying. The way y'all talking like y'all seasoned vets in the GM position.
Well, we could do a little bit better job than Mickey Loomis with the cap space.
Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I mean, yeah, it's you know, here we are. Connor, what, you're 19?
20.
20? I'm 18. Yeah. Okay. We can see it coming. We could see this from a mile away what was going to happen. We know we've got talent on the roster, but we know that we don't draft well. We see it every year. And it's just, we know that if things get tough, we're not gonna be able to answer the bell. So I don't know what we'll do. I don't know. I hope obviously we get Mickey out of there and stuff like that. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what we do at quarterback. There are plenty of game changers that we could draft, and you mentioned Ginty, and Ginty's obviously having an insane year. But I mean, and Kamara's getting old, so that's something to think about. But it'll be interesting to see what we do at quarterback. I don't know. There are some talented guys here this year. There are some talented guys next year. We'll see. What you got playing? Yes. Ain't no problem with that now.